This story takes place 4 years ago, and it still haunts me to this day. It was Christmas night, and my family was driving home from this fancy restaurant. I, unlike my family, wasn't tired, so the 45-minute drive seemed boring and unenthusiastic. On top of that, my little sister was constantly moaning about how her friend didn't get her anything for Christmas. After about 20 minutes of driving, my dad stopped at a gas station to get some cigarettes, and my sister, brother, and mother all got out to pee. I stayed in the car as I had already gone before we left. Once they all left, I decided to play a few games on my phone. I looked at the car clock and saw that 10 minutes had passed, so I immediately wondered what was taking them so long. As soon as I peered out the car window, I saw a man staring at our car. The man startled me as I didn't know how long he had been watching. What made it even more unnerving is that he had a plain, blank face. No expression was shown. It was hard to make out any features as it was pretty dark, and he wasn't standing in an illuminated part of the station. He was about 5'9" and looked to be middle-aged. Once he saw me notice him, he started walking towards the car, and I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't scared. Luckily, my dad came back with the rest of the family, just as the man took a couple steps. My dad apologized and told me he had been in an argument with the cashier. I didn't care. I was just glad that my dad was with me. I took another glance at the man outside, and he was still staring, but this time he had an annoyed look on his face. We drove off, and for the rest of the car ride, I couldn't stop thinking about the man. This wouldn't have been too bad if it had ended there, but it didn't. Later that night, I was watching YouTube while everyone else slept, and luckily for me, a storm was raging over us. I enjoy storms. It makes me cozy as I'm laying in bed. I put my phone down and just enjoyed the noise. I didn't last for long as I heard something smash into the window behind me. I lurched forward and nearly fell out of my bed. I thought a bird had just smashed into the window. I parted the blinds, and what I saw next haunted me. I saw a man staring out by my parents' cars, looking at my room. I took a closer look and I nearly had a heart attack. It was the same man that I saw at the gas station, only this time, when our eyes met, he grinned. Being the 14-year-old I was, I did the manly thing and screamed at the top of my lungs. My dad came running down the stairs and entered my room. "Why the fuck are you screaming?" he said. I told him about the man and I explained everything that had happened. My dad grabbed a baseball bat and told me to call the police. After 10 minutes, the police turned up outside our house and found the men in our shed. He got arrested, and that was the last time I saw him. The next day, my dad inspected the house. We found the handle of the back door had been damaged, but not completely broken. This gives me an eerie feeling, as if he actually managed to get in, he would have harmed us, or possibly killed us. This is my first post, and first ever day on Reddit, so please bear with me. When I saw Let's Not Meet, I knew I had to share one of my own not-so-pleasant experiences. It was Christmas Eve, and I was a freshman in high school. My family had been split up for some time, so normally we trade off Christmas Day and Christmas Eve every year. And this year I had come home early from my grandparents' Christmas party, while everyone else was at my aunt and uncle celebrating at another party. When I was dropped off, my cousins offered to stay with me for a few hours, yet I declined. I thought I could watch some of my new DVDs and get some alone time in the house, which is a rarity. I had noticed an unfamiliar car parked on the street, but didn't think anything of it, considering it was Christmas Eve. Probably a neighbor's relative or something. After I got inside, I locked the door, grabbed snacks, and started to settle down. I had been home for more than 15 minutes when there was a knock on the door. I unlocked the door and opened it, only a crack to see a man standing there. Dark hair, glasses, slightly overweight, and dressed casually. He didn't look like much of a threat, but my stomach dropped. He asked, "I was wondering about the car outside. Is it for sale?" I told him I didn't think so. Is there someone here I can talk to about it? I said, and quite stupidly I might add, no, you can come back another time, and shut the door and turned the lock as fast as I possibly could. He reached for the handle immediately and started pounding on the door. Loud now. I heard a string of profanities and the pounding stopped. Terrified, I was crawling on the floor to the phone, hoping he wouldn't be able to see me through one of the windows. Then I heard the noises. Our houses had an open garage door that led through the laundry room. When the door lock was broken and no one had bothered to fix it, just then I heard a man yell, and I saw the man through the window run to his car and drive off. My uncle had gotten him just in time and scared the man off. Who knows what could have happened if he made it into my home? And who knows what would have happened if my uncle didn't make it home in time? Sadly, we didn't get the plate number and nothing ever came of it, but I'll never be home alone on a holiday again. Creepy guy outside on Christmas Eve. Let's not meet. I hear a lot of scary shopping stories, and they usually are from the perspective of the person who is shopping. However, my scariest experience happened when I was working at a bookstore. About 2 months after, I was promoted from bookseller to assistant manager. We were hit by the Christmas rush. It was always so overwhelming, really. By the end of the night, everyone was so wiped out, and getting all the receipts and drawers counted at the end of the night took so much time. On the night that I was closing, I let the workers go as soon as they were done. There was no reason to make them stick around and be tired while I was finishing up my work. After I let everyone go, I went back into the offices to do my work. After a while, I heard the doorbell ring. We had security cameras, but there wasn't one at the door, so I had to go to the front door and see who it was. There was a guy there, and he was dressed in dark clothes and his hood up. I asked him how I could help him, of course watching him through the door. "Hey dude, I left my wallet in the store," he told me. "Can you open the door and let me come in and get it?" I asked him where he thought he left it, and that I would look for it for him. He didn't like that idea, and told me he wasn't sure. He had been shopping through the entire store and would have to look for it. I asked him if he had bought anything, and he told me yes, which meant he had to have his wallet on him at that point. I pointed that out to him, and he seemed taken aback by it. I told him we didn't get anything turned in, but I could take his information and get back to him if we find anything. The man began getting angry, telling me that he needed his wallet tonight, and he couldn't wait for me to look for it. He kept insisting that I let him in so he could look for it. When I told him that there was no way I was letting him in the store this late and while I was alone, he began getting visibly angry. He told me that if I didn't let him in the place right away, he would call the police and tell them that I stole his wallet. He even got his cell phone out of his pocket and acted like he was going to call. At this point, I had enough. I told the guy the best I could do for him is to take down his information and call him if anything was found. I then told him that if it wasn't good enough, then there wasn't anything at all I could do for him. He got really angry and began swearing at me. He grabbed the door and began shaking it, demanding that I open the door. I told him once again I couldn't do that. I went to walk over to the customer service desk and call the police. I wasn't willing to cooperate anymore. As I made my way over there, I noticed the guy take off down the street. I thought that was the end of him, and I figured that I didn't really need to bother the police for this. I went back to my work and tried my best to get it done, so I could go home and get some rest. It took me about 2 hours to honestly finish all my work. I hadn't heard the doorbell ring, and pretty much figured that I wouldn't be seeing that guy again. However, when I was going to the front of the store, I did look around to see if anyone was in the parking lot before I went outside. I went out to my car in the cold and couldn't wait to get out of the cold. I froze when I was maybe within a couple feet away from my car. There was someone in the back seat of my car. He was hiding, down on the back seat with his hood over his head. There was definitely someone in the back seat of my car, and I knew exactly who it had to be. Furthermore, he must have seen me or he wouldn't have ducked down. I did the only thing I could think of to do. I turned around and ran full speed back into the store. I didn't look back until I made it to the door. And yeah, he was coming at me. I unlocked the door and shut it behind me. He made it to the door right before I could lock it, so I had to do my best to hold it closed while trying to turn the lock. As I did, the man screamed all sorts of obscenities at me, telling me he was going to kill me. As the door opened outward, I quickly pushed it towards him, knocking him on the ground. Before he could realize what was happened and recover, I was able to get to the door, closed and locked. I immediately called the police. The guy left after that, and the police picked him up pretty quickly. I really wanted a PlayStation 2 when it was originally released. I tried everything to get one as quickly as possible. The local Best Buy was having a Black Friday sale, and I stood in line, waiting to get one. I was nowhere near being lucky. I then tried getting one online, so as much as I wanted one, the people on eBay and Amazon who were reselling them were asking for way too much money, and I couldn't afford them. After several days of trying my best to find a way to get one, I had come to the conclusion that it wasn't going to happen. It was then I thought I could come across a bit of luck, going through Craigslist. I found that someone was selling their PlayStation 4 and at no more than the original buying price of the system. I, of course, was skeptical. I couldn't understand why they would do that, as I figured as in demand as the system happened to be that someone would have claimed it right away. I immediately emailed the seller and let them know that I was very interested and I hoped that they still had it. I was surprised to get an immediate response. They did still have the PS4 and would be willing to sell it to me. They asked me for my address so they could bring it over. I sort of hesitated and asked him if it would be better to meet in public. I wasn't too keen on the idea of a stranger coming over to my house. He let me know he was going to be very busy all day and that he couldn't keep the appointment. So again, he told me that it needed to be at the house. It would be easier. I was still not really ecstatic about the idea, but I really wanted this PS4. I agreed and gave the guy my address. I figured it was safer than me going over to his place. The whole exchange took place at about 9 a.m. I was so happy and really eager to get my PS4. My eagerness was only beginning to grow as I began waiting for the guy. Hell, I not only began waiting for him, I waited for a long time. Hours passed and I began to think he wasn't going to come. Around 2 p.m., I had gotten really impatient. I tried emailing the guy back, asking him where he was. Previously, I had gotten very quick responses from him, but I didn't get any this time. Around 6 p.m., I had lost no hope. I figured that most likely he got a better offer from someone else and didn't want to tell me. I was disappointed more than I can possibly even tell you. I couldn't even tell you how deflated I was. It's one thing to not have gotten the item from the store. I could not even get it on Craigslist. And I was so close to having it in my hands. That was the scariest thing to ever happen to me. Just kidding. For the rest of the night, I kept looking around Craigslist to find a new PS4. And of course, I really couldn't find one. So, I was starting to give up. I had wasted the entire day and the entire evening with this search. It was past midnight, and I just had nothing to show for the day. I got ready for bed, and that's when I heard something. At first, I dismissed it. I was like, what is that? It couldn't be, could it? Was it the guy with the PS4? I walked up to the door and looked out the window. There was a guy standing there, and I asked who he was. He identified himself as the guy who had the PS4. He apologized for being so late and told me he had got caught up during the day. He asked if I had the money. I opened the door but kept the screen door closed. I told him I had the money, but I didn't see that he had anything with him. I asked if he brought the PS4 with him. He told me it was out in his van. He told me to get the money and come out to the van with him, and he would get it for me. I let him know I wasn't really comfortable walking out to his van, and he told me it was all right. I looked over his shoulder and saw that something was in the van waiting, and he had been keeping his hand in his hooded sweatshirt all the time while talking to me. There was something more than just his hand in there. I told him I'd go get my wallet and then come back. He protested as I closed the door in his face, and then I locked it. I was too uncomfortable with this and went over to my phone to call the cops. As I did, I heard a loud hit on my front door. In a few moments, I watched the van drive away really fast. When I went to check and see if he damaged my door, I nearly fainted, as I saw a knife embedded into the door itself. I was right. He had something in his sweatshirt, and that I shouldn't go out in the van with him. So, creepy dude in the van, let's not meet. Hey everyone, it's me, Daniel. I wanted to talk to you guys to say right away, wishing you an early Merry Christmas to you and your families. Christmas is my favorite holiday, and I'm excited tomorrow and on Christmas Eve and maybe on Christmas Day. Gonna be busy. If not, it'll be the day after Christmas where I deliver another creepy, scary story for you guys. Thank you all for following the channel, and if you made it to the end of this video, I do it for you guys, for fun. I enjoy reading creepy stories, and again, I love Christmas, so this is a really fun time for me. I want to make sure you guys know that Christmas is important and to spend it with your family. Tell them you love them. You never know when each moment can be our last. And also the true meaning of Christmas. The true meaning of Christmas is, of course, the Lord, Esher Yeshua. So I want you guys to remember that during this Christmas. Remember, it's not all about the presents. It is about the love of your family and the one who created it all and brought you to this moment. Again, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays if you're not Christian. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the stories tonight. See you tomorrow afternoon. Have a good rest of your night. And make sure you buy those last minute Christmas stuff, because everything's going pretty fast. So, have a good night, guys.